Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another episode on Beyond the Touchline. This is the post game week show for game week 23. A lot of action has happened. A couple of things to talk about obviously over this weekend. But yeah, let's talk about it. Drop a like on the video, guys. Are enjoying this series, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you very much for the support over the past couple of videos and throughout this entire time really. So I hope this can continue, and yes, share this out to people that you think are going to enjoy such content. But yeah, thank you very much for the support. Yeah, let's jump right in. Right, so if I look at the Premier League table once again now, starting from the bottom three sides, unfortunately, they've all lost their games. Leicester obviously won their game against Tottenham, so they have catapulted themselves out of the relegation zone for the first time in a long while. Now, Everton obviously picked up another win, so their gap to the relegation spots actually have increased. So again, it looks like in terms of the bottom four now, it looks even tighter because now Everton looks like they're starting to pull away. But obviously ahead of Everton is Tottenham, who've lost another game, 4 defeats in a row for Spurs. West Ham drew their game, so now in 14th. Crystal Palace lost their game, so they're stuck in 13th. But we have Brentford, United both winning their game, so started climbing up the table a little bit in terms of points tally, getting some points on the board as well. Fulham and Brighton have both lost their games, so they kind of stayed where they were essentially. Villa have drawn theirs, unbeaten 5 games, but as you can tell, 3 draws out of 5, the last 5 Premier League games. May not be the best, but ultimately not too bad, I guess, compared to some other teams. Bournemouth, obviously, they won their game convincingly. We'll talk about them later. Chelsea, obviously, with a defeat in 6th. Newcastle and City level on points, but obviously City are ahead thanks to goal difference. Nottingham Forest obviously lost their game. They see themselves still in 3rd. 9 points now behind Liverpool. Who are 6 points also ahead of Arsenal, but obviously as we know, Liverpool have a game in hand. So again, at the top of the table, thankfully, Arsenal have won their game, which I guess has allowed them to at least maintain their gap to Liverpool. But once again, Liverpool are just that strong, and they're just constantly winning their games and constantly picking up points when the teams aren't, teams below them aren't. So essentially, they're still able to extend their lead. Right, so for these statistics now, Salah, Haaland and Isak all scored goals, and Wemmer was scored as well against Crystal Palace. Wood didn't score, Palmer didn't score. Palmer was also on 14 goals. Still, as for the assist-wise, the top three, none of them registered an assist in their respective games. But we have Murphy and Damsgaard both registering 1 assist each when they played their games over the weekend. Right, so here are my predictions for Game Week 23. Now, not too bad actually. I've managed to predict again half the results in terms of the outcome of the results, right, which is not too bad. Essentially, I think I went in with some level of expectation, some level of maybe shocks here and there. I mean, I think Liverpool Ipswich, I should have put the 1-1 draw, to be honest. I think I've said that in the previous video as well. I think Wolves Arsenal, that should have happened. I think the draw could have happened. We'll talk about them ish maybe a bit later if we do. Brighton Everton as well, I thought that was a bit questionable. It could have happened, it couldn't have happened. But Tottenham Leicester, obviously I felt that one was, yeah, we'll talk about them as well. For Fulham United, again, it could have gone either way, arguably. But at least I've managed to predict one result exactly right, which was the game West Ham, Aston Villa against West Ham. So I'm quite pleased about that one at least. But here are the results. So Everton did beat Brighton 1-0. Liverpool smashed Ipswich 4-1. Newcastle convincing win against Southampton 3-1. Arsenal did beat Wolves marginally there 1-0. Bournemouth 5-0 against Nottingham Forest. That game we'll definitely talk about later. City 3, Chelsea 1. Leicester City 2, Tottenham 1. Brentford beating Palace by 2-1. Obviously Villa West Ham a 1-0 draw over there. And to wrap off the weekend, Manchester United 1, Fulham 0. Right, first takeaway, Kusanov needs time, but Sanchez, oh God. Now obviously you guys know I love Man City, they're the club that I support, so ultimately I will want to give them priority when it comes to talking about football, and this is the first thing I want to talk about. Obviously Kusanov, new signing coming in, we arguably would have expected big things from our players, when they come in, Kusanov, Reece, as well as Marmoush. Marmoush started the game. He started brilliantly, to be honest. Marmoush had an excellent debut, in my opinion. Was offside twice, scored one at least in that offside moment. But ultimately, Marmoush was really exciting. The way I see him play, his versatility, his agility as well, absolutely brilliant. I really do hope this is a sign of things to come for Marmoush at least. He is a creative player, in my opinion, and he may not be, the best striker in the world, but ultimately, him being able to support the team in that manner is absolutely fantastic. We need more creative players. Exactly that, when it comes to the attacking threat, that is really important for us because we can't just rely on Haaland to constantly navigate our games left, right, and centre. That would be too much on Haaland to bear. But yeah, talking about Kusanov, obviously the highlight was that he had a nightmare 5 minutes into his Premier League debut, right? Now, first of all, getting yellow card in the first couple of minutes, first 2 minutes, is obviously not the best impression to make. And then when it comes to the goal against to concede, yeah, I think that was a disappointing decision. The way he tried to do it, obviously he missed the header first of all when it was coming down, and then he tried to head it back. And Kanji was there with him, but I guess lack of communication between the two. Ultimately, that resulted in a goal. But I mean, if Jackson had decided to take that on his own, maybe it would have been safe. So Jackson, obviously, very unselfishly passing on, I think, to Madueke was the goal scorer. So ultimately, we look at that and we sort of question ourselves. Now, had the game ended 1-0 to Chelsea, what would the reaction have been? Now, ultimately, I think the support given to Kusanov was brilliant from the fans, right? He was obviously subbed off at the 54th minute. And ultimately, I think a lot of the fans were really supportive of what they have to see. Yes, Kusanov had a nightmare 5 minutes, right? But after that, he was, I think, really, really good. Stuck in there ultimately. Didn't exactly allow that to really impact him massively because I'm quite sure the confidence was dropped massively. But ultimately after that, he was still able to, I wouldn't say be composed, but at least, have some level of a performance that I think was really, really good for the team to at least keep them in the game, which to me ultimately is the most important thing. Now, again, as I said, had it resulted by a goal to nil, yes, it would have been very, very disappointing. But I think mistakes tend to happen in games ultimately, and I think the question was why start him when you have John Stones at the bench, because ultimately Pep subbed him out for John Stones, and to me it's more of just I think too many injuries have already tormented the club in many ways this season, and if we had bring another experienced centre back in to start the game, and what if he gets injured again, we would have been in serious trouble because clearly the defence also needs a level of experience. As I said, the two centre backs that have been brought in, they're both relatively young, or very, very young in my opinion. And as I said, we talk about experience, they don't exactly have that. And Kusanov has sort of demonstrated that with his mistake, but ultimately, he still has certain quality, he just needs to train, etc. But I can understand the decision that Pep made when it comes to trying to rotate the players a little bit, just to ensure that, because I said the squad is aging, right? They're not as good as they used to be when it comes to playing full 90 minutes, etc. So he also needs to give the youth some attempt to prove themselves and have those game times, etc. I think it's a managerial decision that's very hard to dictate immediately. Of course, there are some decisions when ultimately you start losing games, you start being a manager, why you did this, why you did that. But I think for this one, even if we've lost the game, I don't exactly think Pep has made the wrong decision to put Kustanov in there. I think the lineup in general was still okay. Obviously, the biggest highlight after Kustanov's mistake was definitely Robert Sanchez's mistake, time and time again. Really just didn't understand what he was doing. Apparently, this season alone, he's already made 9 mistakes that have led to him conceding a goal. Poor decisions, left, right, and centre. I think even me, myself, as a City fan, I was absolutely baffled. It was like a gift, essentially. Especially the goal with Haaland, right? Didn't really understand why he decided to come out of his goal when clearly, I think, if he stayed in his goal, it would have been a lot difficult for Haaland to even try to have an attempt at goal. Yeah, it's poor, essentially, from Robert. I'm quite certain after this, Maresca would clearly have understood that Chelsea goalkeeper's place is definitely up for grabs because clearly this is not what you want to expect from your goalkeeper. And Chelsea made so many mistakes. They've had one of the worst forms of the Premier League season already now after when they were talking about how close they were to Liverpool. And I think after Maresca talked about, they're not in the title race, they started to capitulate. So again, it goes to show how form is very important, which is exactly, City, I think, is testament of that. When they had such bad form in that mid-period, right? That's really impacted them. And that's why they're where they are in the Premier League table right now. Now they're starting to pick up wins again, starting to pick up some decent results, but ultimately not enough to catch Liverpool because Liverpool have just been very good throughout the entirety of the season so far. So that's the difference between the two sides. But yeah, as for City, I mean, obviously, Club Brugge next week, or this week, rather, depends on how you want to see it. It's a must-win game, otherwise Champions League is in threat. To be honest, I mean, if they really do lose and get out of the Champions League, I've got nothing to say, really. I think this season's been one of the worst seasons ever for Pep Guardiola with City. And I think you might as well just have all the worst possible outcomes to come into this season and pick themselves up again next season. But ultimately, I think in the league, it's a lot more important for me at this point in time where we've got to be a lot more consistent. We've got to have the players build up this level of confidence once again. Otherwise, I think it'll be very problematic for them, even when they go into next season, if performances do not get better in general for the club. Right, takeaway number 2, AFC Bournemouth, take a bow. Now, if you remember what I said in the last episode, I said I predict Bournemouth to beat Nottingham Forest simply because I feel that Bournemouth are just very lively. Their attacking threat looks insane. I think Nottingham Forest will not be able to necessarily deal with that threat extremely well. That's why I put a 1-0 slim margin of victory, because I feel like Nottingham Forest, as we said, when they don't have the ball, they clearly know what to do regardless, and they're still able to create chances, which is exactly what happened in that game. Don't get me wrong. Some really good saves by Kepa Arrizabalaga, but at the end of the day, the result was 5-0. It's actually the worst game I think we've seen from Nottingham Forest this season. They have plenty of chances. Arguably in this game, they have more chances than most of the games they've had over the season. But still, they've not been able to convert a single shot into a goal. And they've conceded 5 against Bournemouth, the Cherries. Obviously, a couple of mistakes here and there when it comes to conceding the goals. I think Myles made one of the mistakes that allowed the players scored a hat-trick as well. Kluivert scored a goal, could have scored another one had the assistant not been offside. So a lot of things are happening in that game that really went in Bournemouth's favour. Nottingham Forest, obviously, I said they had the worst game of the Premier League this season so far. And we can only hope that it is a one-off, because, as I said, there's a lot of things to look forward to with Nottingham Forest. And ultimately, I think these two sides have been absolutely ridiculous this season as well. They've really shown quality, despite, the squad not being the best in the Premier League. They've shown better performances than Chelsea. They've shown better performances than Tottenham for sure. Shown better performances than Manchester United. Arguably, at times, even better performance than Man City as well. And that just shows how good these two clubs have been this season. We've got to give them credit where credit is due. But definitely, for this game explicitly, the credit has to go to Bournemouth. They were impeccable with that game. You tell me you score 5 against Nottingham, and then you score 4 against Newcastle, who are arguably the closest rivals when it comes to, as I said, fighting for their lofty position in the Premier League. They've done whatever they can to essentially pick up the best results possible. And if you look at the table, what this does to their goal difference is massive, massive, massive as well. They're now at plus 15 goal difference, plus 5 from the game against Nottingham, and plus 3 against Newcastle. They were at plus 7 2 games prior, and now their goal difference, in fact, is more than Newcastle's one, which shows how important goal difference is, because they're essentially now just a point behind City, behind Newcastle. And if at any point in time they want to overtake these lads, goal difference is going to come in handy, because City obviously have a very bad goal difference this season, evidently plus 17, which is not good. They have scored a lot of goals as of late, but still the number of goals conceded have not been little. It's been quite many, so because of that, the goal difference has taken a dip as well. But as I said, looking at Bournemouth again, absolutely lively, blitzering this season from Bournemouth, and in that game against Nottingham as well. You've got to give credit where credit's due. But as I said, hopefully Nottingham Forest, this is a one-off, and hopefully they're going to be back to how we're used to seeing them. As I said, I don't expect Nottingham to win every single game here on out, but they can't be as disappointing in this one. Otherwise, they are definitely in trouble for the rest of the season, because, yeah, I've been talking about possible downfall. This, I think, is a huge one. They need to wake up and clearly get away from this as soon as possible, because if they don't, definitely in trouble. But Bournemouth, they've got plenty to look forward to. But again, as I said, can't be complacent. They've got to continue to try their best to work things out within the team to be as good as they've been so far this season. And I'm sure Europe is the next destination for them. Right, takeaway number 3, Everton. Wow, is this the Moyes effect happening? And as for Liverpool, I mean, same story, isn't it? Now let's have a look, talk about the Merseyside teams for this particular point, this particular takeaway. Now, talk about when Everton deep beat Brighton. Now, in that game itself, I think Brighton had a couple of really good chances to even at least score a goal. But Everton really, really genuinely held their own. With that penalty, I mean, you can call it luck a little bit, but sometimes you just need that little stroke of luck to just get their penalty in the first place, and then to convert the penalty as well. Really, really important from Everton. I think, at least in this game in particular, yes, I think they still conceded a lot of chances to Brighton, but ultimately I felt in terms of the defence, they look a lot tighter for this one. Like, the chances that Brighton have created, it needed a lot of thinking, it needed a lot of creativity, and they've been, as I think, really genuinely just, yeah, really tight in this one. And defensively, I think it's quite a good performance. But again, as I said, attacking wise, yes, not good enough still from Everton. They just don't have that out striker to help them brag the goals. They don't have that creative attacking midfielder that can bring the ball forward. And I think without signings again in this window, it's going to be very challenging for Everton. Yes, 2 wins on the bounce, which ultimately means that they're now, what, 7 points away from the relegation zone. Brilliant, it's a brilliant time to feel that. But how long can they keep this up? Because it's not going to be easy moving forward. You can't expect yourself to win every single game moving forward, Everton. And as I said, they're coming into each game, I think, threading on thin ice, because clearly they know where the quality is. I'm sure Moyes knows where the quality is within the team, and it's not going to be easy for them to just constantly tell themselves that, yeah, we're going to get a result, or even at least be competitive in every single game. As I said, defensively, they're constantly going to rely on Jordan Pickford. As I said, the defense, they're still not the most established defensive line that I think that can coexist at Everton, or just not really good, not convincing, not sound enough for me. And again, attacking is going to be even worse. So they don't really have a team that can bring the ball forward well, can defend well, which means, as I said, it's going to be very difficult for them to constantly, I'd say, channel and dig performances, which is what you expect ultimately from a team of like Everton, who have been very good in the past couple of years, and so as of late, I think the past 2-3 years have been very bad. But prior to that, Everton have been extremely good in my opinion, always fighting for Europe, for example. So I don't know exactly when we'll see this Everton again, but a win's a win, and you've got to be pleased, and I'm pleased for them as well. But what does that mean for Brighton? Ultimately, again, after 2 wins on the bounce, they're back to defeat again, which means, could another winless run happen for Brighton? Brighton have had a very up and down season this year, and I think it's disappointing in my opinion, because I think there have been a lot of positivity coming into the season for Brighton. I think a lot of expectations probably for Brighton as well. I don't think we've all expected Brighton to do this badly, but they've evidently done so this season. So clearly, it's not good enough for them. Now, as for Liverpool, I mean, they've been just as brilliant as they've been. 4-1 win against Ipswich. There's really nothing much to say except they've still been as good as they've been. Arne Slot has really proven to be, I think, a fantastic manager when it comes to adapting into the squad. I think Jurgen Klopp has really set a fantastic foundation for him. I think even the season Liverpool didn't really sign a lot of players, did they? I think Chiesa was definitely a signing, but is that it? Was Cody Gakpo a new signing? Hold on, let me check. Yes, I was correct. Yeah, Chiesa was only their signing. Was their only signing. Sorry, in the summer window, and even in this January window, also nothing much. I mean, they did sign. They did sign a new goalkeeper, but he's going to come in next year at the start of next season. So ultimately, it's been a very quiet window for Liverpool in general, but they've still managed to really just have a really good team. I think age-wise isn't that too much of a concern for them. The defense is relatively young, except Van Dijk. In the midfield, I think it looks rather lively, as I said, with the players that they have, and attacking threat as well, pretty good. As I said, Salah is aging, but he's still like at his best, at his prime, something like that. So everything is clicked massively for Liverpool this season, which ultimately translates it into such a dominating season for them. And all I can say is, what I'm seeing is clearly what people saw from Man City over the past 4 years. Again, how City have just everything clicking together. And even when they were down at times, like they were losing games or drawing games, still managed to climb. But this one for Liverpool, they've been just up there the whole time. That's the difference between both clubs, obviously, this season, and how City have managed to win the Premier League titles as well. And also said, when Liverpool now, they don't really have competition, because I think it's expected for the teams below them to continue to drop points, and not exactly expecting Liverpool to drop any more points. Yes, I said, the title's pretty much secure for Liverpool, as long as they don't make any mistakes. But yes, ultimately, Liverpool have been fantastic this season, don't get me wrong, and we've only got to give them the best credit possible. Yeah, fantastic for Liverpool. I mean, obviously, between them and Everton, right, it's two completely different tales, but you've got to say, both Merseyside obviously won their game this weekend, and yeah, I think it's important for Everton, crucial for Everton to win their game. But as for Liverpool, it's just crucial for them to continue to at least win. And I think it's actually the first home win of the Premier League for this year, not the season, this year, 2025. So I'm sure Liverpool will be ecstatic about it. But yeah, fantastic from Liverpool, fantastic from Everton. Yeah, that's exactly how it's been for both Merseyside clubs for this weekend. Right, takeaway number 4. Tottenham, you are dead, literally. Now, I get it. Tottenham's form has been diabolical, but coming into this game, right? I don't know if I said it in the last episode, but I genuinely would classify this a relegation 6-pointer. And the rationale is that Tottenham have had one of the most abysmal seasons ever since I started watching football. And Leicester, obviously, after winning the Premier League, after Brendan Rodgers had left, after they started to get relegated, and it's been a downhill battle for Leicester as well. They've been trying their best to I wouldn't say go back to the glory days, but at least be somewhat competitive to stay in the Premier League. But the season has shown otherwise for them. Even Ruud van Nistelrooy has not been able to churn magic for the club. This has been very, very difficult for Leicester City as well. But I think we've got to look at Tottenham 100%, right? Now, even with 11 that they have are injured, with the squad they've put out for the game against Leicester, I'll be honest with you, I sincerely believe that it's going to be good enough, and I think it would have been good enough, and definitely good enough, to at least get the result against Leicester City. Now, they were 1-0 up at the break, and they had plenty of chances. Obviously, I think really good saves from the Leicester goalkeeper. And yeah, ultimately, I think there was some chances which I think were really close for calling. Leicester were quiet. They were absolutely quiet in the first half. But all Leicester needed was 5 minutes in the second half. And at the start of the second half, in fact, to register 2 goals. That off chance that you wouldn't expect, right? Both goals, I think, just came in off chance, right? First goal was a mistake, and the cross in, goalkeeper didn't get it, kind of spilled it, to be honest, if you ask me. Vardy managed to get the last touch on that. He even miscued the shot initially, but somehow, luckily, the ball still managed to stay at his feet. He's managed to put the ball in the back of the net. And as for the second goal, a brilliant, well-placed goal. Yeah, so ultimately, those are the 2 off chances that Leicester needed to help them get the 2 goals, first of all, and then for them to subsequently hold on for the rest of the game. This is disastrous from Tottenham. When we look at them and we sort of wonder what is happening again. Right, what is Anke going to do moving forward? Is he again at threat? Maybe. Who knows, right? Maybe after this he's going to get the sack again. Because I'm recording this immediately after the Manchester United game. But I don't exactly know what to expect from Tottenham anymore. They've just been bad. This game is clearly one of those games where one would expect them to, at least the bare minimum, get the win over the line, sort of kickstart the season again. They clearly need the wins. Looking at the table, they're now 8 points to the relegation zone, right? And Everton, Leicester won more games than them in the past 5 games. Even Leicester alone have picked up more points than them in the past 5 Premier League games. That just shows how bad Tottenham have been this season. You talk about how bad Tottenham have been, you talk about how bad Manchester United have been, but because Man United have somehow managed to pick up 2 wins in the draw in the last 5 Premier League games, they find themselves ahead of Tottenham by, I wouldn't say a substantial margin. I mean, 5 points isn't the craziest amount of margins, but it's still pretty good in my opinion at this point in time, when clearly both of them have had really bad seasons, and both of them are in the bottom half of the table. But Tottenham have had an even worse Premier League season this season. I don't see them getting relegated because I think 8 points is too much of a gap to concede, essentially, especially when you look at the team being Wolves, Ipswich. I think it's going to be really difficult. But clearly Tottenham are just going to struggle with them. And it's almost as if they can start fighting for the wooden spoon, essentially, Tottenham. I think Tottenham could finish as low as 16th the season at this rate, which is evidently, I think, one of the worst Premier League seasons I think we've ever seen from them. And as I said, they have a positive goal difference. In the bottom half of the Premier League table, only them and Brentford have a positive goal difference. And Tottenham's positive goal difference is better than Brighton, is better than Fulham, is better than Villa's, is better than Nottingham Forest. So again, the point on how when they win games, they've been absolutely convincing. But when they lose games, it's a slim margin. And obviously in the Premier League, as much as goals are important, your points are arguably the first priority there, the first cut, really. They've not been able to do that this season. So they're dead, literally, because even when games that they should be winning, they're not winning. they're just in trouble in all sorts, really. And if had this torrid run begin from the start of the season, I'm sure they would in relegation scrap, and I'm sure Anke would not have been able to keep his job for sure. But then again, who's going to come in? Because this Tottenham job feels like a curse, doesn't it? Like every single manager has come in, even when you look at Conte, even look at Mourinho, they've not been able to change the team. It's just difficult for any manager that comes into Tottenham. Like they're gonna have a good start, but after that, it's just somehow back to square again. There is something about this team that just doesn't sit right with me. And even like Harry Kane, he's left. I think he's made a good decision. Leaving to Bayern Munich, he looks like he's firing there in all cylinders. Of course, didn't win the title last season, but this season, I think he's hopefully going to win his first big title ever in his career, which is insane to me considering how he scored like 200 plus goals, or maybe close to 300 goals in his career, and he's still not able to win a trophy. Yeah, insane. That's insane luck, I guess, for Harry Kane. But again, back on this point, right? Tottenham struggles all round. I'm confused what I'm seeing, as I've said. And yeah, evidently not good enough from them. They are just in many trouble. Too much trouble, in my opinion. Right, Rick Hart worthy. That's the last takeaway for this weekend. Obviously, the defender Myles from Arsenal did get a red card. So the question is, obviously, is that even red card worthy? Arsenal did win their game, first of all, but probably expensive because João Gomez also had a red card on his end, which allowed, the number of players on the pitch to equalise, because I felt like Arsenal were not doing the best when it comes to playing against an 11-man Wolves when they were down to 10. Wolves had a couple of good chances. Mateus Cunha's missed a couple. I'm sure he's going to kill himself for not scoring those goals when he clearly should have, at least, getting on target, etc. Yeah, I'm sure definitely Wolves stood a chance to at least get a draw out of this game, or even get such a win, essentially. It's their fault, essentially, for not taking the best of the opportunities that they presented themselves. I'm sure the manager was really angry as well when João Gomez was sent off at the end of the day. The reaction from Victor Pereira was insane. But anyways, back to the point. Was it a red card? Now, I rarely talk about such decisions because I feel that it's happened, right? And whatever I say or whatever we say wouldn't change the complexity of the game. The only thing that we can do is sort of moving forward. And I'm sure Arsenal would be blessed because they won their game. So ultimately, at least it didn't impact them to there's like damage limitation, essentially, in a lot of ways. For me, at least, it's difficult to judge whether or not it is going to be a red card. I think it's a very tactical tackle, in my opinion, because clearly Wolves are going to get on the counter attack and they could have scored, they maybe couldn't have scored, but I'm looking at it as the distance between the goal and the tackle. That was like, I think, a good 70 to 80 meters. I'm not sure how many yards is that. Maybe, again, 80, 90 yards. Maybe, I don't know how they convert that. But honestly speaking, when we look at that and wonder, there's still like two defenders past Myles, essentially. Then you look at that and sort of wonder, is that a red card? Now, 100%, 100% it's a yellow, right? A very strong yellow, because clearly you are stopping an attack from happening, and it would have been arguably, I think in hindsight, a very good attack from Wolves, because I saw the images from the back. All the Wolves players starting to push forward. It was clearly a counter attack that was going to happen. And with the tackle being made, obviously it was going to be in trouble when it comes to, being punished. Well, again, red card. I can see why that the referees decided to give a red card. But would I have given a red card? I'd say probably. To a certain extent, probably. But this isn't like a 100% red card kind of offense. It's like a single offense kind of a thing for me. Now, obviously, how it works sometimes in football is that you can tend to accumulate a couple of fouls, and the referee is quite annoyed with you for accumulating such many little fouls here and there. Then at the end, he just shoves the card in your face, whether it be a yellow or a red card. I think for this one, if you ask me, right, maybe on the spot I would have given a red as well. But after looking back again and thinking about it, after the game is finished and sort of looking at it again, I feel that a yellow would have definitely happened. And had he made another foul in that game, even if it's light, I would have translated and the other yellow would have sent him off. Because to me, at least, that foul is massive. It's a huge foul. It's too much of a foul for me to give a red, but at the same time, it's a yellow would seem a little bit too light. As I said, it's strong. It's a very strong yellow. that sort of foul right there, I think he's sitting on the fence, because the way he put his outstretched leg, it's clear the malicious intent was clearly there from the defender to stop the attack from happening. Because as a defender, as an experienced Premier League defender, or as a professional defender at that level, you don't just randomly swing your leg out because you know what's going to happen. If you do that in the box, it's come from a penalty, right? You wouldn't do that. Sometimes in the penalty, I think is a mistake, sure. But for this one, why would you swing your leg out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the pitch, when, yeah, you know, you clearly chose to make that decision, in my opinion. Like, at least it's more of a conscious effort than an unconscious one, a subconscious one rather. So clearly, for me at least, based on that account, it's going to be problematic already for the defender. So red card, I can see why it was given, but I wouldn't necessarily give a red card on the spot, looking back. But yeah, it was gonna be tricky, I'm sure, for the referee. But of course, again, all the uproar and stuff, hard to tell. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for everyone. That was going to be a very, very difficult decision, in my opinion. Even now, when I'm talking into the camera about this, I feel it would have been a very, very difficult decision to make. Even if you go through VAR and stuff, it would have been very, very difficult, I think, to ultimately justify. Because you're going to make one side of the house unhappy, right? I'm sure Wolves will agree that that would have been a red card. I'm sure Arsenal would agree that would have just been a strong yellow at most. So as a neutral fan over here for both teams, because I clearly don't support both of them, yeah, I just think that maybe 100% strong yellow, a red, I can see why, but maybe I wouldn't have given it on the spot. But yeah, this was a very difficult decision to make, but I think lucky for Arsenal, it didn't affect them in the end. I mean, Arsenal had a lot of chances in the game as well, despite being down to 10 men, but just not being able to contain Wolves as well. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, attacking still looked lively, but defensively it looked shaky, because clearly with that one man down, yeah, you can just tell like some holes essentially in the defense where they're not necessarily able to close. And yeah, Wolves unfortunately just didn't take advantage of it, because they should have done so. That would have allowed them to be a lot more competitive in the game, because ultimately they did get a red card themselves, a double yellow, I think, for João Gomez. And yeah, because of that, ultimately they've also lost their game. And again, as I said, a very strong start for Wolves, for Victor Pereira initially, but now we're looking back to square one again. No difference to when Gary O'Neill was still at the club. So clearly things need to change at Wolves as well. But yeah, that'll be it, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching this one. As I said, very hectic game week, to be honest. A lot of things have happened up and down. Even the table was sort of taking a little bit of a shift here and there, especially the bottom half there. That's been quite crazy, and at the top as well. As I said, Liverpool are still obviously up there. Arsenal still trying to fight with Liverpool as much as they can. Finally, City are back in the top four. Hopefully this can continue. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Drop a like on the video if you guys have enjoyed this as well. And of course, subscribe if you're new around here, and get discussing in the comments down below how you guys felt that this game week as well, and what are your predictions for Game Week 24. Let me know for that as well. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for the support as always. But yeah, goodbye.